Woman learns humanity's secrets during NDE. Her message is unbelievable. What message is this? To find out, watch the video to the end. But first, please subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications to get more stories like this. As the day began, Amelia felt the weight of exhaustion settling on her shoulders. The corporate world had taken its toll on her, consuming her with meetings, deadlines, and an endless pursuit of success. Her once bright eyes now held a dim glow, a reflection of a soul yearning for something more. Yet, she couldn't quite place what was missing. Was it happiness? Purpose? She wasn't sure. It was on an ordinary day, amid her routine hustle, that life threw her a curveball. Amelia's heart suddenly started to race, pounding against her chest as if it were trying to escape. Her breaths grew shallow, and a wave of dizziness overtook her. Panicked, she clutched her chest, her surroundings spinning into a blur. Then, everything went dark. When Amelia opened her eyes, she wasn't in the hospital or her office. Instead, she found herself floating in an endless expanse of light. It wasn't harsh or blinding but warm and comforting, as though it was wrapping her in an ethereal embrace. The world she had known felt distant, almost insignificant compared to the serenity of this realm. She wasn't alone. Figures of light began to form around her, their presence radiating wisdom and love. Though they had no distinct features, she felt an unspoken connection to them, as though they had always been a part of her journey. One figure stepped forward, its form shimmering like liquid gold. Amelia, it spoke, not with words but with a resonance that vibrated within her very being. You have been given a rare opportunity to see beyond the veil. You will understand the truths that bind humanity, the secrets of existence, and the purpose of all things. Are you ready? Amelia's heart, or whatever semblance of it existed in this place, fluttered. She nodded, her curiosity outweighing her fear. The figure extended a hand, and as she touched it, a surge of memories, visions, and emotions flooded her. She saw the beginnings of humanity, the struggles and triumphs of countless civilizations. She felt the pain of wars, the joy of reunions, and the unyielding hope that had driven humanity forward through the ages. But these weren't just images, she lived them. She became a soldier fighting for freedom, a mother grieving her lost child, a scientist uncovering the mysteries of the universe. Why are you showing me this? Amelia asked, her voice trembling. To understand humanity, you must become humanity, the figure replied. Only then can you carry the message they need. Amelia stood amidst the swirling visions, her senses overwhelmed yet her mind strangely clear. Each fragment of history she experienced felt deeply personal, as though she had truly lived through the lives of millions. She wasn't just observing humanity's past, she was a part of it, connected to the countless souls who had shaped the world. The figures of light remained around her, silently guiding her through the flood of experiences. Just as she began to steady herself, a sudden shift in the atmosphere occurred. The warmth turned into an icy stillness, and the light around her dimmed. A new vision unfolded before her, but this one was unlike the rest. It wasn't the story of humanity's triumphs or struggles. It was a glimpse into its future. Amelia watched as towering cities crumbled under the weight of neglect, oceans overflowed onto continents, and the sky turned a sickly shade of gray. She could hear the cries of despair, the pleas for help, and the echoes of a humanity that had lost its way. Her heart broke, the pain more vivid than anything she had ever known. It wasn't just a vision, it was a warning. Is this what will happen? Amelia whispered, her voice barely audible. Is this humanity's destiny? One of the figures stepped closer, its golden glow flickering as though in sorrow. It is one possible path, it said. The choices humanity makes today will shape the reality of tomorrow. That is why you are here. You will carry a message, a chance for them to choose differently. Amelia's mind raced with questions. What kind of message? And why me? I'm just ordinary. The figure's glow softened, and Amelia felt an overwhelming sense of compassion radiating from it. You are not ordinary, Amelia. None of you are. Every soul holds the power to influence the world in ways they cannot fathom. But you have been chosen because your journey is intertwined with the threads of change. Your actions, your words, will inspire others to see what they have forgotten. Before Amelia could respond, the scene shifted again. This time, she was surrounded by countless golden threads stretching across the infinite expanse. Each thread shimmered, pulsing with life and energy. She instinctively reached out to touch one, and as her fingers made contact, an entire life unfolded before her eyes. It was the story of a young boy who had grown up in poverty but had found joy in creating music from discarded objects. His melodies had brought hope to his community, inspiring others to see beauty even in hardship. Amelia touched another thread, and a similar story played out. An elderly woman who had dedicated her life to planting trees in a barren land, transforming it into a thriving forest. These are the unsung heroes of your world, the figure explained. They are the reminders that even the smallest acts of kindness and courage can ripple outward, touching lives in ways unseen. Humanity's greatest strength lies in its ability to create connections, to uplift one another. But too often, this is forgotten. Amelia's chest tightened as realization dawned on her. The message she was meant to carry wasn't one of despair or fear. It was one of hope, of the infinite potential within every individual to make a difference. "How do I bring this message back?" she asked, her voice steadier now. The figure didn't answer directly. Instead, it raised its hand, and the golden threads began to weave together, forming a radiant tapestry. The threads intertwined, creating a masterpiece that depicted the interconnectedness of all life. In its center was Amelia, her figure glowing as brightly as the rest. "When you return," the figure said, "you will find the words. Trust in yourself and in the truth you now carry." Amelia felt the weight of the tapestry's meaning settle over her, but it wasn't oppressive. It was empowering. For the first time, she understood the enormity of her purpose, not as an impossible burden but as an opportunity to awaken something greater within herself and others. The figures of light began to retreat, their forms shimmering faintly as the expanse around her started to dissolve into a glowing mist. Amelia felt a gentle pull, as though she was being drawn back toward her physical existence. Her heartbeat quickened, and for a moment, panic crept into her chest. "Wait," she called out. "What if I fail? What if they don't listen to me?" One of the figures paused, its presence more vivid than the others. "Failure is not the end, Amelia. It is a step toward understanding. Even if only one person hears your message and changes their path, the ripple will grow. Trust in the power of connection." The light around her grew brighter, enveloping her in a warm embrace. The figure's voices faded, replaced by the rhythmic sound of her own heartbeat. She could feel herself descending, the ethereal sensations giving way to the heaviness of her body. The vivid visions began to blur, but the essence of what she had experienced remained etched in her soul. Amelia gasped as her eyes flew open, the sterile white ceiling of the hospital room coming into focus. Her body ached, but she was alive. A cacophony of sounds surrounded her, machines beeping, faint conversations in the hallway, and the soft murmur of someone speaking nearby. "She's awake," a voice exclaimed, full of relief. It was Emma, her closest friend, who had been at her side during every step of her recovery. Tears streamed down Emma's face as she clutched Amelia's hand. "You've been unconscious for days. The doctors weren't sure if you'd come back." Amelia's lips were dry, but she managed a small smile. "I saw something," she said, her voice hoarse. "Something I need to tell everyone." Emma frowned slightly, confusion etched across her features. "What do you mean? What did you see?" Amelia's eyes shone with a newfound intensity. "The truth, Emma. About us. About what we can become." As the hours passed, Amelia recounted her experience to Emma in halting but vivid detail. She described the figures of light, the golden threads, and the tapestry that revealed humanity's interconnectedness. Emma listened intently, her skepticism giving way to awe as Amelia spoke with conviction. "You sound like you've been given a mission," Emma said quietly, still processing everything. Amelia nodded. "It's more than that. It's a responsibility. I have to share this message, not just with words but through action. We can't keep living the way we are, disconnected from each other and from what truly matters." Over the following weeks, Amelia's life transformed. The woman who had once blended into the background now became a beacon of inspiration. She began speaking at local community centers, sharing her story not as a lecture but as a heartfelt call to action. Her words resonated deeply, stirring something in the hearts of her listeners. At one event, a single mother approached her, tears in her eyes. "Your story reminded me to keep going," she said. "I've been so overwhelmed, but now I see that even small acts of love and kindness can make a difference." Amelia smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude. "They can. And you're stronger than you realize." Each person who heard Amelia's story seemed to carry it forward, spreading the message in their own unique way. Communities began organizing cleanup drives, starting food pantries, and creating spaces for open dialogue. The ripple effects were undeniable. But Amelia's journey wasn't without challenges. Skeptics dismissed her as delusional, and media outlets labeled her a near-death experience fanatic. Still, she remained undeterred, knowing that the light she had seen wasn't meant to be hidden, it was meant to shine, no matter the obstacles. As Amelia's story continued to spread, she became a symbol of resilience and transformation. Her messages reached people across the world, carried by social media, word of mouth, and even skeptics who couldn't ignore the impact she was having. Though her experiences were extraordinary, Amelia always brought her narrative back to a single truth: the power of connection. One evening, Amelia stood before a crowded hall filled with people of all ages, backgrounds, and beliefs. The room buzzed with energy, an anticipation that seemed to fill every corner. She stepped to the microphone, her heart steady, her voice calm. "I'm not here to tell you what to believe," she began, her gaze sweeping the room. "I'm here to remind you of what we already know deep down, that we are stronger together. That when we choose love, compassion, and understanding, we create something unbreakable." A hand shot up from the crowd, belonging to a young man in the front row. He looked nervous but determined. "What if people don't want to listen?" he asked. "What if they refuse to change?" Amelia smiled softly. Change doesn't always happen all at once. It's not about convincing everyone overnight. It's about planting seeds, seeds of hope, courage, and kindness. Even if just one person takes that seed and helps it grow, it can transform a life, a community, or even the world. The young man nodded, his shoulders relaxing. Around him, others began to murmur in agreement, a collective realization settling over the room. After the event, Amelia lingered to speak with attendees. She met an elderly woman who shared how her neighborhood had started a community garden after hearing Amelia's story. A teenager recounted how her school had launched an anti-bullying campaign inspired by Amelia's words. Each story reminded Amelia of the tapestry she had seen during her near-death experience, the threads weaving together in ways she could never have imagined. But her most profound encounter that evening was with a man in his early 40s, his face weathered with years of hardship. He approached Amelia hesitantly, clutching a worn notebook. "I wasn't going to come tonight," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "I've been struggling to find meaning in anything. But listening to you, I felt something I haven't felt in a long time." Amelia placed a hand on his shoulder, her eyes filled with empathy. "Hope is the beginning of everything," she said. "It's what helps us take that first step, even when we don't know where the path will lead." The man nodded, tears brimming in his eyes. "Thank you for everything." As the months turned into years, Amelia's mission evolved. She partnered with organizations to create initiatives focused on mental health, community building, and education. Her efforts weren't without resistance, but each challenge only deepened her resolve. She often thought back to the figures of light and their message: failure is not the end, but a step toward understanding. Her story became a catalyst for change, sparking movements that spanned continents. Yet, through it all, Amelia remained grounded, reminding herself that her purpose wasn't about fame or recognition. It was about making a difference, no matter how small, in the lives of those around her. One quiet morning, Amelia found herself walking through a park. The sun cast a warm glow over the trees, and the laughter of children echoed in the distance. She paused by a bench, watching as a young girl helped an elderly man retrieve a fallen hat. The simplicity of the moment brought a smile to her face. As she sat down, she felt a gentle breeze brush her cheek, carrying with it a faint, familiar warmth. She closed her eyes and breathed deeply, feeling an overwhelming sense of peace. The tapestry of humanity was still unfolding, and Amelia knew she was just one thread among countless others. But together, they were creating something extraordinary. Years passed, and Amelia's work continued to ripple through the world in ways she never imagined. Her story was translated into dozens of languages, reaching corners of the globe where hope seemed to be in short supply. Communities were inspired to rebuild after disasters, individuals found courage to overcome their struggles, and people from all walks of life began to realize the power of unity. Amelia herself remained a humble figure in the midst of this global movement. She often retreated to her small home in the countryside, where she could find solace and reflect on everything that had transpired. Her garden became her sanctuary, a place where she nurtured life and drew parallels to the seeds she had planted in people's hearts. One afternoon, as she pruned a rose bush, Amelia received a call from an international organization. They wanted her to attend a summit as a keynote speaker, alongside world leaders and changemakers. Though she hesitated at first, the organizers explained how her presence could inspire global collaboration. After much thought, she agreed, knowing that her story could amplify the very message she had dedicated her life to spreading. The summit was held in a grand hall, its walls adorned with flags from every nation. Amelia stood backstage, clutching a small piece of paper with her notes. As her name was announced, the crowd erupted into applause, a wave of admiration that left her momentarily breathless. She stepped onto the stage, her gaze sweeping across the audience. Presidents, activists, scientists, and educators filled the seats before her. Despite the grandeur, Amelia spoke as she always did, with sincerity and a deep connection to her truth. "Many of you here today hold great power," she began. "The power to create policies, lead nations, and influence generations. But true power is not in titles or positions. It is in how we choose to treat one another. It is in the small acts of kindness that ripple outward, changing lives in ways we may never see." She paused, letting her words settle before continuing. "The tapestry I saw in my near-death experience showed me one thing above all: we are all connected. Our actions, no matter how small, weave into the greater fabric of humanity. And if we choose love, compassion, and understanding, we can create something truly extraordinary." The room was silent, but not with indifference. It was the kind of silence that held weight, the kind that signified deep reflection. When Amelia finished, the applause that followed was not just for her, but for the hope she had reignited in every person present. After the summit, Amelia received a letter from a young girl who had watched her speech online. The girl wrote about how she had been struggling with bullying at school but felt inspired to start a kindness club, bringing together students who had felt isolated. "This is what it's all about," Amelia thought, holding the letter close to her heart. In the twilight of her life, Amelia often sat on her porch, gazing at the stars. She felt no fear of the unknown, only gratitude for the journey she had been given. The world was far from perfect, but she knew the seeds of hope, love, and unity were growing, tended to by countless hands. And as she closed her eyes for the last time, she felt the same warmth she had experienced during her near-death encounter. She knew she was returning to the light, to the figures who had guided her, and to the tapestry she had spent her life helping to weave. In the end, Amelia's story was not about her alone. It was about all of us, our capacity to change, to heal, and to come together to create a brighter future. Amelia's story continued to inspire the world long after her passing. Her teachings became a beacon of hope, encapsulated in books, documentaries, and even a global day of unity named after her. Schools began integrating her lessons into their curricula, teaching children about empathy, the interconnectedness of humanity, and the importance of small acts of kindness. Communities worldwide adopted Amelia's philosophy. Neighborhoods organized events to foster understanding among diverse groups, while nations began incorporating her message of unity into diplomatic efforts. The world wasn't perfect, but a shift in consciousness was undeniable. One of the most profound impacts of Amelia's legacy was seen in a small village in a war-torn region. Inspired by her story, rival factions came together to rebuild their community. They planted gardens, rebuilt homes, and even created a peace monument with an inscription that read, "Together, we weave the fabric of hope." Years later, Amelia's granddaughter, Clara, decided to follow in her footsteps. Though she was young, Clara possessed the same quiet strength and wisdom that had defined her grandmother. She began traveling the world, sharing her own experiences and reigniting the flames of hope wherever they had dimmed. During one of her speeches, Clara shared a memory of sitting on her grandmother's lap as a child. She told me that every time we choose love over fear, we add a thread of light to the tapestry of humanity. I didn't understand it then, but now I do. And I hope to carry on her work, one thread at a time. Clara's efforts marked the beginning of a new chapter in Amelia's legacy. She represented a generation that had grown up with Amelia's teachings, a generation determined to create a kinder, more connected world. Her work proved that while Amelia's journey had ended, her mission lived on in the hearts of countless people. Decades later, a statue of Amelia was unveiled in a bustling city square. It depicted her holding a tapestry, its threads intertwining into an endless, luminous design. Below the statue, a plaque read, "Amelia Bennett, Weaver of Hope, Believer in Humanity." As people gathered around the statue, sharing stories of how Amelia had touched their lives, her message resounded louder than ever: the power to change the world lay within each of us. And together, there was no limit to what humanity could achieve. Amelia's message, though simple in essence, began to ripple outward in ways that no one could have predicted. The concept of unity and love, underpinned by the wisdom she brought back from her near-death experience, became a cultural phenomenon. People started referring to her vision as the tapestry, symbolizing the interconnected threads of humanity. A grassroots movement emerged, initially small but rapidly growing. Social media platforms lit up with stories of individuals inspired by Amelia's philosophy. Strangers helping strangers, communities coming together to rebuild parks, homes, and schools, and small acts of kindness caught on camera, all were tagged with #TheTapestry. The hashtag became a symbol of hope, a call to action, and a reminder that every thread mattered. In a small town in Ireland, a teacher named Moira used Amelia's story as a cornerstone of her classroom discussions. She encouraged her students to perform one act of kindness each day and write about its impact in journals. These stories were then shared during weekly assemblies, where the students learned how their simple actions could ripple outward and make a difference. On the other side of the globe, in a bustling city in India, a group of young activists formed a collective named Threads of Light. Their goal was to combat isolation and despair in urban areas by creating safe spaces for dialogue and connection. Inspired by Amelia's analogy of weaving a tapestry, they designed public art installations using fabric donated by locals. Each thread in these installations symbolized a contribution from a member of the community, a story, a struggle, a hope. One of their most notable projects took place in a slum on the outskirts of Mumbai. With permission from the local council, they transformed a drab, decaying alleyway into a vibrant tapestry of murals and fabrics. The alley became a gathering place, where people from all walks of life shared meals, ideas, and dreams. The residents, once strangers, began to see each other as part of the same story, woven together by circumstances and the desire for a better future. The success of these projects caught the attention of global media. Reporters interviewed the activists, who humbly credited Amelia's teachings as their guiding light. She taught us that even the smallest thread can strengthen the fabric, one activist explained. We're just helping people find their thread. Amelia's teachings also reached the corporate world. At a global leadership summit, the CEO of a major tech company gave a keynote speech about how her company had integrated Amelia's philosophy into its business practices. "We used to focus solely on profits and innovation," she said. "But now we ask ourselves, how can our work contribute to the tapestry? How can we leave the world a better place than we found it?" The company launched a series of initiatives aimed at bridging digital divides, particularly in underserved communities. They provided free internet access to remote villages, partnered with local schools to introduce digital literacy programs, and created a mentorship platform connecting young entrepreneurs with experienced professionals. These efforts, while aligned with the company's goals, were also deeply personal for the CEO, who had experienced a transformative moment while reading Amelia's story. Meanwhile, Clara, Amelia's granddaughter, continued to carry the torch. Her travels brought her to places of conflict and suffering, where she listened to stories of loss and resilience. In one particularly moving encounter, she met a man named Ibrahim in a refugee camp. He had lost everything: his home, his family, his country. Yet, he carried a small, tattered piece of fabric with him, a remnant of his wife's dress. Clara asked him why he kept it, and his answer brought tears to her eyes. "This thread," he said, holding it up, "reminds me that even in the darkest times, there is beauty. It reminds me to keep weaving, no matter how broken the loom." Inspired by Ibrahim's words, Clara started a new initiative called Threads of Resilience. She partnered with NGOs to provide refugees and displaced individuals with resources to rebuild their lives. The initiative included skill-building workshops, access to education, and platforms for storytelling. Clara believed that sharing stories was one of the most powerful ways to connect people and heal wounds. Amelia's story also sparked a renaissance in the arts. Musicians composed symphonies inspired by her vision of the tapestry. Writers penned novels exploring themes of unity and interconnectedness. Filmmakers produced documentaries that brought her journey to life on screen. One particularly poignant film, titled Threads of Hope, premiered at a major film festival and won numerous awards for its portrayal of ordinary people creating extraordinary change. The film's closing scene featured a montage of real-life stories: a firefighter saving a child from a burning building, a nurse holding the hand of a dying patient, a teenager standing up to bullying at school, and a community rallying to rebuild after a natural disaster. As the credits rolled, Amelia's voiceover echoed her timeless message: "Every thread matters. Every life is a part of the tapestry. And together, we can weave a world of light." Amelia's message continued to resonate across generations. Parents shared her story with their children, teachers incorporated it into their lessons, and leaders invoked it during moments of crisis. The world wasn't perfect, far from it, but there was a sense of hope, a belief that change was possible, one thread at a time. Years passed, and the tapestry that Amelia had envisioned became more than just an idea. It was a living reality. Her story had transcended borders, languages, and cultures, becoming a universal symbol of hope and unity. Yet, for Amelia, the most profound part of her journey was not the global impact but the personal transformations she witnessed in everyday lives. Clara, now an adult and a respected advocate for global unity, decided to honor her grandmother's legacy by organizing an event called the Tapestry Gathering. It was held in a massive open-air amphitheater, drawing people from all walks of life. The gathering wasn't just a celebration, it was a call to action, a moment for reflection, and a chance to weave new threads into the ever-growing fabric of humanity. As the event began, Clara stepped onto the stage, holding a simple yet powerful symbol, a piece of the tapestry that had been woven during her grandmother's lifetime. "This is not just a collection of threads," she said, her voice steady yet emotional. "It is a testament to the power of connection, resilience, and love. Each thread represents a story, a struggle, a triumph, a life. And today, we're here to add our own threads." The audience, a vibrant mix of cultures, religions, and ages, responded with a wave of applause. Clara introduced speakers from around the world, teachers, activists, artists, and even children, who shared how Amelia's teachings had inspired them to make a difference. Each story was a thread, woven into the collective fabric of the gathering. One of the most moving moments came when Ibrahim, the refugee Clara had met years earlier, took the stage. Now a respected advocate for displaced communities, he held up the same tattered piece of fabric he had carried with him through unimaginable hardships. "This thread," he said, his voice breaking, "was once a symbol of loss. But today, it is a symbol of hope. It is a reminder that even the smallest thread can strengthen the whole." The audience erupted into a standing ovation. Ibrahim's words echoed the essence of Amelia's vision, that no thread, no life, is insignificant. Clara embraced him as he stepped off the stage, and for a moment, it felt as if the entire amphitheater was bound together by an invisible thread of shared humanity. As the event came to a close, Clara invited everyone to contribute their own threads to a new tapestry that had been set up at the center of the stage. People lined up, holding pieces of fabric, yarn, or even written notes, each representing their unique story. Children wove brightly colored ribbons, elders added pieces of cherished garments, and artists contributed small, hand-painted fabrics. Amelia, now in her twilight years, watched from the front row, her heart full of pride and gratitude. She had never imagined that her near-death experience would lead to something so profound, so transformative. As she looked at the growing tapestry, she saw not just a collection of threads but a reflection of humanity's potential for love, unity, and resilience. That evening, as the sun set and the amphitheater emptied, Clara sat beside her grandmother, both of them gazing at the tapestry illuminated by soft lights. "You've changed the world, Grandma," Clara said, her voice filled with admiration. Amelia shook her head gently. "I didn't change the world, my dear. The world changed itself. All I did was remind people of what they already knew in their hearts." Clara smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "And that reminder was the greatest gift you could have given." As the night deepened, Amelia closed her eyes, a peaceful smile on her face. She felt the threads of her own life interwoven with countless others, forming a tapestry that would continue to grow long after she was gone. Her journey had come full circle, and she knew that the light she had seen during her near-death experience would never fade. It would shine in every act of kindness, every moment of connection, and every thread added to the tapestry. And so, the story of Amelia and her vision lived on, not just as a tale of one woman's journey but as a legacy that inspired generations to weave a world of light, love, and unity. As the days following the tapestry gathering passed, the impact of the event rippled far and wide. News outlets worldwide highlighted the stories shared, the tapestry itself became a symbol of global hope, and countless individuals reached out to contribute to the ongoing project. What had started as Amelia's personal experience had grown into a movement. Back at home, Amelia spent her final days in quiet reflection. Though her body had grown frail, her mind remained as sharp and vibrant as ever. She spent hours speaking with Clara, passing on the lessons and wisdom she had gathered over the years. For Amelia, the most important part of her journey wasn't the accolades or the recognition. It was the simple, profound realization that every life mattered, every story had value, and every thread contributed to the strength of the whole. One evening, Clara sat by her grandmother's bedside, holding her hand. "Grandma," she began softly, "what do you think your greatest lesson has been through all of this?" Amelia smiled, her eyes twinkling with the same light Clara had always admired. "My greatest lesson," she said, her voice soft but steady, "is that the universe speaks to us in threads. Every connection we make, every act of kindness, every challenge we face, they're all threads in a greater design. And when we embrace those threads, we create something beautiful, something unbreakable." Clara nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You've taught me that too," she whispered. "And I promise, I'll keep weaving the tapestry." Amelia squeezed her hand gently. "I know you will, my love. And remember, the tapestry isn't just ours, it belongs to everyone." In the days that followed Amelia's peaceful passing, Clara carried on her grandmother's legacy with unwavering determination. The tapestry project grew, with contributions pouring in from around the world. Schools began incorporating it into their curricula, encouraging students to share their stories and recognize the threads that connected them. Community centers used it as a tool for healing and unity, while artists and musicians drew inspiration from its profound symbolism. 1 year later, Clara stood in front of a crowd at the unveiling of the completed global tapestry. It was housed in a massive gallery, its vibrant colors and intricate patterns filling the space with a sense of awe. Each thread, each piece of fabric, represented a unique story, and together, they created something breathtaking. As Clara addressed the crowd, she held a small piece of fabric in her hands, a piece from Amelia's original tapestry. This, she said, her voice filled with emotion, is where it all began. My grandmother taught me that no thread is insignificant and that every life has the power to create change. Today, we honor her legacy and the countless lives that have contributed to this tapestry. The crowd erupted into applause, their faces reflecting the hope and unity that Amelia had envisioned. For Clara, it was a moment of profound fulfillment, a reminder that her grandmother's light would continue to shine in every corner of the world. As the gallery doors opened to the public, people from all walks of life entered, their eyes wide with wonder. They saw not just a tapestry but a representation of humanity's resilience, creativity, and love. And as they added their own threads to the ongoing project, they carried forward Amelia's timeless message, that together, we can weave a world of light, love, and unity. Amelia's story was complete, but her legacy lived on, woven into the fabric of humanity itself. As the days following the tapestry gathering passed, the impact of the event rippled far and wide. News outlets worldwide highlighted the stories shared, the tapestry itself became a symbol of global hope, and countless individuals reached out to contribute to the ongoing project. What had started as Amelia's personal experience had grown into a movement. Back at home, Amelia spent her final days in quiet reflection. Though her body had grown frail, her mind remained as sharp and vibrant as ever. She spent hours speaking with Clara, passing on the lessons and wisdom she had gathered over the years. For Amelia, the most important part of her journey wasn't the accolades or the recognition. It was the simple, profound realization that every life mattered, every story had value, and every thread contributed to the strength of the whole. One evening, Clara sat by her grandmother's bedside, holding her hand. "Grandma," she began softly, "what do you think your greatest lesson has been through all of this?" Amelia smiled, her eyes twinkling with the same light Clara had always admired. "My greatest lesson," she said, her voice soft but steady, "is that the universe speaks to us in threads. Every connection we make, every act of kindness, every challenge we face, they're all threads in a greater design. And when we embrace those threads, we create something beautiful, something unbreakable." Clara nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You've taught me that too," she whispered. "And I promise, I'll keep weaving the tapestry." Amelia squeezed her hand gently. "I know you will, my love. And remember, the tapestry isn't just ours, it belongs to everyone." In the days that followed Amelia's peaceful passing, Clara carried on her grandmother's legacy with unwavering determination. The tapestry project grew, with contributions pouring in from around the world. Schools began incorporating it into their curricula, encouraging students to share their stories and recognize the threads that connected them. Community centers used it as a tool for healing and unity, while artists and musicians drew inspiration from its profound symbolism. 1 year later, Clara stood in front of a crowd at the unveiling of the completed global tapestry. It was housed in a massive gallery, its vibrant colors and intricate patterns filling the space with a sense of awe. Each thread, each piece of fabric, represented a unique story, and together, they created something breathtaking. As Clara addressed the crowd, she held a small piece of fabric in her hands, a piece from Amelia's original tapestry. "This," she said, her voice filled with emotion, "is where it all began. My grandmother taught me that no thread is insignificant and that every life has the power to create change. Today, we honor her legacy and the countless lives that have contributed to this tapestry." The crowd erupted into applause, their faces reflecting the hope and unity that Amelia had envisioned. For Clara, it was a moment of profound fulfillment, a reminder that her grandmother's light would continue to shine in every corner of the world. As the gallery doors opened to the public, people from all walks of life entered, their eyes wide with wonder. They saw not just a tapestry but a representation of humanity's resilience, creativity, and love. And as they added their own threads to the ongoing project, they carried forward Amelia's timeless message, that together, we can weave a world of light, love, and unity. Amelia's story was complete, but her legacy lived on, woven into the fabric of humanity itself.